Thank you so much, Serdar, for joining me today to talk about your work. You were so kind last year to allow me to use an image from your home for an article I wrote for Cover Magazine about East meets West in interiors. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Serdar spent 5 years renovating the dilapidated Hungarian Fezullah Pasha mansion, an 1860s wooden house on the Asian side of the Bosphorus. The result is a true labor of love and a complete visual feast of texture and color that incorporates decorative arts from different periods and origins, but with a strong Ottoman vibe. So I love your quote, "I'm a translator. I translate the old into the new." Can you elaborate on this and how you adhere to this motto in your design practice?
Because, well, I started as an art historian, and I was always thinking that, well, I will be only belonging to the art history world. But gradually, I found myself on the design side of the job as well. But on this case, well, of course, my source of inspiration was always Ottoman art. And I started to believe that Ottoman pieces or any kind of old piece, well, they should be kept in the museums. They should be very well preserved. But nowadays we tend to think that these are museum pieces. We can never visualize them, that they have been part of the lives, daily lives of some people. So now what I'm trying to do, either by using them or either by redefining them in today's lifestyle, I try to give them a new life. So I believe that an antique piece, an old piece, should be kept, of course, very well protected. But in some cases, I believe that the best way would be to live with them, to protect them. So I believe that this is our duty, to be a bridge for all these things, not to become only museum pieces that should be part of our daily lives, and we should pass it to the future generations.
I love your phrase, elegant extravagance, that you use in your book. And that sort of encapsulates that idea right there, what you just told us. So I spent hours looking through your book, Ottoman Chic. And what I love most about your interiors is that they're a complete celebration of Ottoman art and culture, but not in a stodgy or museum-like way, which you've just described. And you synthesize so well all the decorative arts, like the calligraphy and the brass tables and your turtle collection, with the textiles and carpets, into a space that's timeless, it's comfortable, it's layered and elegant. And what is your secret to incorporating textiles and carpets into your interiors?
Well, mostly I work on historical houses and Ottoman houses, or sometimes, as we spoke, I do translate it to some contemporary interiors. But I believe in lived-in spaces. Because I don't like a made-up room, a too designed room, too perfect of a room, because too much of perfection I don't find it too attractive in a person, in an interior, in a design.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of patina of life makes the things much more approachable and much more livable. So textiles and carpets, in that case, they help me to add this patina of the old, a patina of a textile, an old patina of carpet, all of a sudden transforms a room and makes it extremely lived in. And also, on the other hand, since I come from an Ottoman culture, in a classical Ottoman house in the old times, we didn't have so much the tradition of the furniture like the Europeans, Westerners had. Our interiors were most of the time based on any kind of textiles, which could be hand-woven textiles, embroideries, or carpets. All these textiles in our world replaced the furniture of Europe. For example, instead of a beautiful gilt huge sofa, we have beautifully fabric covered divans.
Mm-hmm.
Or instead of a beautiful four-post bed, we have incredible cushions, pillows, and quilt faces. So all of a sudden, our rooms are made of textiles. But what I try to do, because sometimes the use of textiles in interiors could make the place quite very ethnic,
Right.
which I don't mind, which I like that as well. But my approach in using textiles, I use them in a more in a more grand way. And I always believe that this is what I say always to the collectors, to the friends, to the clients, that all these textiles, most of them, or all these antique pieces, they survived so many generations, and they are not as fragile as we want to believe them to be. If they would have been so fragile, they wouldn't survive so many centuries. So if you treat them gently and live with them gently, they will survive us. They are more stronger than we are. The more we use them, I believe they acquire more of a patina, and it makes them more beautiful. And this way, we can teach the coming generations how to live with them. It becomes part of their lives, and I believe that this approach is a wonderful approach to preserve these pieces.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I do think that they add such a nice warmth to, particularly to your interiors, and just sort of this quiet elegance without taking away from the rest of the room. So do you have a favorite type or age of Turkish carpet to use, or do you find that the choice is site specific?
I believe that to make a room bigger, I want to use the maximum size for this room, because all of a sudden it gives a big grandeur to this room, and it helps us to perceive the size of the room. It's not cut into small pieces. So that's why I like big carpets. Even sometimes I buy such big carpets that I have to fold them from one side.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, which brings me a lot to Usha Carpets. I love Usha Carpets.
I do too.
I do love them, especially of course, if one can find, of course. I don't have, indeed, I have a small one. I love all these, early Usha carpets, like with the medallion ones, the star Ushaks, etc. The later one, the 19th century ones, or even the early 20th century ones, which have quite a thick pile, but they have quite very beautiful, strong medallions or designs, but quite plain backgrounds. They work very well, so I use them a lot.
Great. And so many designers adhere to the adage that a room is built around a carpet, and you start with the carpet. What's your typical jumping off point? And can you describe a situation when a specific carpet works successfully and tied the whole room together?
It depends on the room. If it's a very beautifully proportioned room with a defined center, etc., I always love to use medallion carpets, because it defines the center of the room. It defines the place of the chandelier or the lamp. But in some cases, in some rooms, they are off-centered. So then in this case, it's always very good to use small repeats just to offset the center of the room or the center of the dining table, etc. I believe in layers. I could very easy, because see, if a carpet had a beautiful old patina, somehow the colors, they get softened, and they melt down easily with any color. So I'm not from that approach to start a room with a carpet. I don't mind at all, because all of a sudden, even a carpet which doesn't look perfect color, if we go with the swatches of the fabrics, etc., can work perfectly well. Even better, it can add what I just said to you, the beautiful imperfection.
I love that phrase. And I do feel like if you surround yourself with things that you love, it should all work together.
If not, it becomes like a hotel room or like a hotel lobby.
Exactly.
It's not layered. It's not layered, because I love layered interiors, and layer on layer somehow makes the beauty, the depth of a room. And all these antique fabrics and carpets, they help a lot. All the good antique pieces with a patina, anyway, they will work together. They have this thing, because we all know that in these times they had a sort of a limited color palette. So this color, since they didn't have chemicals and etc., somehow all these things, they in a way For example, let's say the carpet will match with the cushion or with the ceramic or with the bronzes, etc. Somehow they will all work well.
You may not want to reveal your sources, but can you share with us your process of finding the perfect carpet? And do you have a go-to dealer, or do you enjoy the hunt at auctions, or are you in the Grand Bazaar daily looking for the perfect carpet? And do you have any tips for us
Of
on finding the right
course.
carpet?
Of course, I go a lot to the Grand Bazaar, of course. I'm in love with the Grand Bazaar, the oldest shopping mall of the world. In this case, of course, you have to have your sources and your friends who present you the good carpets. And the thing is, and I believe that the most basic rule is to be present and go on repeating without failing, full of hope each day, without being discouraged, because the only day that you didn't go, that you felt that, oh well, I've been there 100 times, it would be the day that you would miss the best piece. So persistency is very good nowadays, since we have this pandemic, a lot of online auctions, and also, well, a lot of antique dealers here in Istanbul and abroad. But I have a big chance, of course, living in Istanbul. I have the best restorers in Istanbul. For example, part-time I live in Paris. If I find a carpet, let's say a beautiful Usha in Paris, it will not be easy for me to restore it in Paris, or it will be too costly. So I wouldn't think to buy it in Paris. But being in Istanbul helps me a lot to take more risk and to be more courageous, to buy more, how can I say, well, problematic pieces that I can have them restored. So that's why I'm very lucky from my geographical position.
You are extremely lucky, and I'm extremely jealous. I would love to be able to go to the Grand Bazaar. In your home, I noticed that many of the rooms flow gracefully one into the next. And what is your method for picking carpets for rooms that are near each other? Do you feel like they need to have a common thread or look, or do you look for contrast?
I believe that you have to, as a designer, as a collector, you have to have a very clear set of mind. Everything starts in the mind. You have to crystallize or sharpen your choices, the kind of things that you like. Then, if this is neat in your head, somehow all the things that you will buy will end up matching with each other. But if you are a very undecisive collector or buyer or a designer, even the same carpet from the same period, even if you find the sister, will not work. But on the other hand, if you have a neat approach to what you want and what you like, and or like nowadays they do with the diets, if you do an elimination diet or elimination of choices, if you know what you want, I believe that a Chinese carpet will go with the Usha carpet, that will go very well with an Iranian, a Persian carpet, or maybe with a contemporary carpet. Your eye will pick up the fruits of the same mentality, so automatically they will go well together, and somehow this mismatch of the match will create the atmosphere.
Right. And I notice you do that also with your decorative arts, where you have blue and white Chinese porcelain mixed with Syrian tables and Turkish brass, and it does, to your point, it all melds together into such a beautiful whole. So do you have a current project that you're working on right now that maybe incorporates some of the processes and decorative motifs that you learned while you were doing your own home? And have you ever worked with a contemporary space and combined it with your design aesthetic?
Yes, of course. I worked few times in contemporary places. So it's, well, if you see the contemporary house as a beautiful white canvas, then all these things also, they look wonderful on these very good and plain, but positively plain backgrounds. For 25 years, I've been designing Ottoman inspired upholstery fabrics. So I still use some of them. And also I design China porcelain. I use them in the contemporary interiors as well. So I love to work with the contemporary interiors, but on the other hand, my heart is always with the historical buildings, to be very honest.
So I just want to have one last question. Do you have a favorite carpet that's in your collection that you want to tell us about?
Yes, indeed. I have a carpet. Indeed, in my main reception room here in Istanbul, it's a huge Usha carpet, enormous, late 19th century, with a sort of reddish, coralish background and some celadon greens on it. So I adore this carpet. Because it's an empty room, but somehow this carpet dresses the whole space. So I love this carpet a lot, and also this carpet has seen a lot because, well, we lived a lot on this carpet. It became part of my life. We had parties, funeral lunches, we danced on it, we cried on it, so it's part of my life. So I love this carpet very much. It's part of my life.
Oh, I love that. So it has been such a joy to speak with you today, Serdar, and I only wish that we were doing it over a cup of strong Turkish coffee, sitting on top of a pile of carpets in the Grand Bazaar. You and your work are such an inspiration, and not only is it just so timeless and elegant, but it so wonderfully honors your Turkish heritage and your Ottoman culture. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for all your wonderful, generous words. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.